It's the Indie Review Show.
Yeah. I love it.
How's it going?
It's good. I'm actually really very much in the mood for this review. It's been a long, tiring day, and I feel like what we need is Darth Vader and Son. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like one that isn't a heady one will be awesome.
100%.
So I am Cory Kerr.
And I'm Joshua Kemble.
And this is the Indie Review Show.
This is the series where we review the best of indie comics and other media like movies, TV, cartoons, books, and did we mention comics?
The idea of the show is that we're pulling back the curtains on our inspirations. Josh and I have both been professional illustrators, cartoonists, animators, graphic designers, and we've taught at the university level, and we're getting into things that inspire us.
I love it.
So before we do that, should we do some plugs?
Yeah, let's do some plugs. Why don't you go ahead and go first, and then I can get set up.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to check out my stuff, you can go to corykerr.com. And if you go to corykerr.com, I've got lots of different things for you to look at there. But the stuff I'm working on right now is going to be the animation stuff. So you can click on animation, or if you go to corykerr.com and /online, or click on the What's New button, that'll take you to kind of the most recent stuff. And that's what I've got going on right now. So if you're interested in some of the things, it's kind of some behind the scenes, then go check out Instagram or Twitter. Those are probably your best bets. You ready, Josh?
Yep, good to go. All right.
How are you?
So most importantly, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So first, I want to recommend, before we get into the reviews and stuff like that, Two Stories. This is a book I will mention probably every show. I spent about 5 years making it. It's a graphic novel about faith and mental illness that's hand-lettered, hand-inked, and then handed to you in print on Amazon.com. It's a memoir, and it's actually pretty appropriate because today we're going to be talking about Jeffrey Brown, who kind of cut his teeth doing memoir. And this is, I will actually say, by no means as good as Clumsy, but it's in the same vein. And so, yeah, pick one of these up if you like it. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So now I want to get into the meat of the book. So what's funny is I'm trying to do these things alphabetically. And when you're talking indie comics, Jeffrey Brown is kind of an essential. He is really known for a book called Clumsy that I mentioned. There's like 3 other autobio books. They usually have to do with dating, and they're told in a very like diary entry kind of way with like very noodly style, very loose style. He's a Chicago cartoonist, and just kind of blew people away with the first Clumsy book because it was just stylistically very different. I'll be honest, like at first it threw me off. I wasn't a big Jeffrey Brown fan at first glance. And then I got more familiar with cartooning and sort of grew to really love what Jeffrey Brown does. But this book was like a complete 180. He had been hired by because he was known for these things. He got hired by Google because they wanted to work with him, and they had this premise where they were like, "Hey, we have this thing we've kind of worked up, which is like for Father's Day, we want to do a bit about Darth Vader, and on Father's Day." That got scrapped, and this is like one of those unlikely stories where Google actually said it was okay for him to take that concept elsewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so in good faith, which is insane when dealing with large corporations. And then he ended up, I think, getting the licensing. I think that Lucasfilm partnered. I mean, this is definitely licensed. But Lucasfilm decided to partner with him on it. And then this came out from Chronicle Books and just is still to this day like on the bestseller lists because it's hilarious and awesome. Before we get into it, I want to say a few things I really like about the book just up front. It's really beautifully printed, which to me matters with especially like a coffee table book or a children's book. I think that like, there's a spot gloss on the cover. There's like, an indented, debossed lettering on there, and it just kind of gives it a nice quality. The other thing I love about this book, and I'm going to actually, because it's such a short book, we're also going to go through Vader's Little Princess, the sequel. But I also wanted to just highlight the fact that, like, if you read Clumsy, you may not imagine this being something that would come out of Jeffrey Brown's mind. And one of the things I love about art and cartooning is the variety that people have, like the wingspan they have as artists, where they're not stuck to one genre. And of course, somebody is going to do like really deep, serious, like emotional work also has a sense of humor. And I think this is just, to me, this has a sense of play and fun to it that is just amazing. And I love the approach to it, where it's literally made with crayons and colored pencils and then like ink. And I think that's really cool too. Yeah. So that being said, it's also really hilarious, and I'm a Star Wars geek, and there's a lot of like kind of gag riffs on Star Wars or other known properties, but I just thought this one was so clever, just playing off of the premise that, I mean, technically Darth Vader's a dad, right? So what's his relationship like with his son?
Yeah.
So a little bit of Chris Ware influence. Jeffrey Brown is actually really good friends with Chris Ware, and you can see that in like the book design here, where you have like these reflected patterns, just very well designed. So there we go. And this gives us a nice little take on what the book's going to be about, right? Here, I'll put on the light now. I think that might help. Is that better for view? I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, after the camera adjusted, it's good.
Okay, awesome. Let me maybe pull a little bit away. Okay, so Darth Vader and Son by Jeffrey Brown, Chronicle Books. And it starts with Luke on the back of Darth Vader, and Darth Vader blindly walking forward going, "Luke, I can't see." So here we go. We've got the introduction, just like any Star Wars property, with a proper scroll where it says Episode 3.5. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Darth Vader and Son. Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, leads the Galactic Empire against the heroic Rebel Alliance. Before he can take care of the rebels, Lord Vader must first take care of his son, 4-year-old Luke Skywalker. And there's your premise. And then basically, like a good short kind of gag, like a good one-panel strip, that's the premise, and the whole book is just basically going to be based on that premise. And also, I love the fact that it's all hand-lettered, and it's very, like, loosely ruled out. So still, like, just all the playfulness. This is clearly done with just, like, the stars are done with whiteout. And here's Luke, cutting a baseball. They're playing ball. Don't make bubbles. And at the cantina. So there we go. Darth Vader chasing after Luke on a speeder bike, but it's a literal bike, and it's like also he's wearing his
training helmet.
Training helmet, yeah. Don't you like the eggs I made? Which is just a standard dad moment. Although all the backgrounds are great, right?
Yeah.
Definitely straight out of, A New Hope. C-3POs being poured by the Force. So I'm just going to go through this and kind of enjoy the bits behind it. And I think, like, once again, there's not a lot of attention to, like, anatomy, to, like, even compositionally, it's not, like, the most amazing thing, but I think that actually makes it amazing. Like, if this, you can see the bands of lines that were used for the marker. It's done in such a playful, childlike way, and I think that really further sells the bit and makes this like such a great book. I think it would have been a lot less interesting with like these finely rendered illustrations. I also like these little touches where you have C-3PO and R2-D2 are buried in the sand, and you have R2-D2's little scope like popping out, and it's like, look, Dad, droids, and he's clearly not paying attention. He's reading his book.
And you got a crate dragon in the background and two suns.
So good. This is him complaining about his sister, who's dressing all of the Empire characters in dresses. All right. So then,
what are the little pieces in between them? The smaller pieces?
Oh, it's a little tea set.
Oh.
So she's having a tea party, which is hilarious, with Darth Maul and Stormtrooper, Battle Droid, and oh my goodness, blanking out on his name.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett, thank you. How can I do that? I'm gonna get like raked across the coals by Star Wars nerds. So this is classic. Like, if you were that age, what would you do? I mean, you definitely use the Force to steal cookies from the cookie jar. But Dad, you said we could go to the Tashi station after nap. He said, I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. And that is a deep cut with Star Wars, because everybody knows about the complaint about the Tashi station. So good times. And again, like, I just love how loose and fun it is. Like, you can tell he's having a lot of fun just rendering these with like marker and crayons, and like, you know, just kind of having a blast.
Yeah, that's cool. Recently, Mark Hamill on Twitter shared a picture of himself at a gas station that's called Tachi, and he bought a AC/DC converter there.
Oh, that's right. So he got his power converters.
He got his power converter.
Oh, I love it. Where do babies come from? Just Darth Vader. But so there's some things that I also want to note is, like, there's some subtlety even in like the looseness of the style. Like, Darth Vader has his hands like folded, like kind of awkwardly.
Yeah.
Under his cape, you know, and it's just that sells the bit so much. Like, if you covered that, it's not quite as funny.
Right.
But just the fact that he's kind of doing this like, you know.
Yeah.
That move.
There's so many good answers to that. I love that there's an ellipsis too.
Oh yeah.
You know, like when a man loves a woman so much that he's willing to kill a bunch of children.
So this is a zoo, which is great. And you have like a Sarlacc pit and a Rancor.
And a baby Lando.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And then there's little things like Hoth is over there.
And that's the Rancor keeper that's looking at the Rancor.
Oh, that's right. I've never noticed that before. I love that. And I think one of them is looking at like a cell phone or something, which is kind of funny. All right. But I love the little details. And again, like, I think the thing that's great about these books is you can tell it's done by somebody who sincerely loves Star Wars and like would have probably done this book for free, you know, just as like fun art. I also love the hand-ruled borders, which is something he does in his autobios as well. Which, by the way, I recommend everybody check out Jeffrey Brown's like way more serious work. This just happens to be my favorite thing he did. So okay, then it's what's wrong? Greedo pushed me, and he said, "Well, did you push him first?" Oh, that's so good. So it's the Greedo shot first thing, or Han shot first thing. Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
That's funny.
Luke, what are you doing? Get out of here. He's playing in the trash compactor.
So does he have kids?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so. I would think he'd have to.
I can't keep my 2-year-old out of the garbage can. That kid, no matter what we do, he's just in the garbage can. He loves it.
Yeah, kids are drawn to anything that could potentially kill them. They're drawn to it like magnets. Perhaps one of you would like to babysit my son? And again, it's just the little details where, I mean, like there's a little juice box there. But like right next to the juice box, you get the sense they're all having like a cup of coffee or something at like a meeting. All right. So that's my son. Clap, 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 clap. And that's him getting an award.
Which is funny because of what he got the award for.
Exactly. So good.
The rebels are like, the one guy is looking at him like, I'm very confused and
It's
nervous.
like a little awkward here. Luke, why aren't you ready for school? I'm here to put you back on schedule. Perhaps I can find new ways to motivate you. And he's just playing with an X-Wing. Hasn't put on his clothes yet. You have learned much, young one. Thanks, Dad. And I love the fact that they're playing checkers, which is hilarious.
Instead of hollow chess.
Yeah. This isn't the toy you're looking for. Yes, it is. And he's like, it's Jar Jar. That's a great bit, too. And shout out to like all the 80s action figures right there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And here he is just getting a Band-Aid right next to a medical droid. Luke, pick up your toys right this instant. Luke, I am your father. Let's see. Do you want a timeout? And again, like all these little model ships based on... I love this. Path. Boom. Luke, did you finish shoveling? Yes. And I also love that it's one of the spy droids too. So it's like technically like he might have been kind of keeping an eye on that.
Right.
Eye on him to make sure he did his chores. Splashing in puddles. Again, like the style is just really fun. And the thing is, like, even though it's naive, it is really informed. It's just super loose, you know. But I think that, like, again, that just kind of reinforces the fun of this. Together we can rule the galaxy as father and son, and then I can have a treat. Are we there yet? Not yet.
Just the idea of a car seat in his modified TIE fighter is awesome.
Hilarious. It's so good.
And then all the nerds right now, because I know I'm doing it, Luke would die. They don't have life support inside of those pods. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, that's true, without his helmet. Is that a good guy or a bad guy? Good guy. He looks like a bad guy. Well, he's a good guy. Some are good guys. He's drawing Darth Maul. I also love that in this drawing, he's using probably some of the types of materials that Jeffrey Brown used to make this.
Yeah.
I also love Child Han. That's pretty great. No, you can't play with Han Solo, and that's final. And I also love that this is the door that they're about to blow in Jedi. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Just all the little details are great. Yoda's pretty great, right, Dad? Sure. He's really powerful with the Force, I guess. Even stronger in the Force than you, right? I don't know. And I also love that, like, all of these are moments that are very, I mean, it's like your typical kind of gag that you do for a dad on Father's Day, but it, you know, the premise is just so good. It just sells itself each time. Luke, do you need to go potty? No. Well, you're kind of doing a little dance. I don't have to go. So yeah, or he looks just like you, Lord Vader. What is thy bidding, my master? Dad, Dad, Dad. Luke, go to the other room. Dad, 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 Dad. Would you like to talk later, Lord Vader? No, master, because I can. That's great too. Like I just I can't get over how fun this book is. Just funny, like the idea of being bothered during a teleconference. It's so good. But with so he's saying you don't have to be scared. It's just a Wookiee. It's like a kid's reaction to a dog. Thank you, my son. I can't wear this. Gets him a polka dot tie. It's just I can't get over how silly and wonderful this book is. So he's clearly hiring some hitmen. And his son's having a meltdown. And they're like so awkward. Oh, these are so good. Food has gone astray here. Luke, that's not safe. Come back here. Again, the settings are just so perfect. Yeah, it's. Please, Dad, can we go now? Can we? I'm ready to go home, please. I find your lack of patience disturbing.
And the body language that Luke has in that is great.
Yeah.
Arms straight down, hunched over, that exaggerated exhaustion.
Totally. Yeah, the acting, that's the thing about Jeffrey Brown. He does this in Clumsy too. Like the drawing looks really naive, more naive than this. And yet he's so good at like subtly conveying like action and movement and emotion with his characters. Which even shows here, you know, it's like you can tell. I mean, Darth Vader's kind of a hard guy to do emotion with that's not just anger. And here you can tell he's being really delicate with terribly wrapping this very expensive present. It's good. It's good visual acting. My dad said I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. Ice cream cone. This is a classic. Drops his ice cream cone and Vader hooks him up. Dad, hey, Dad, guess what? Luke, may I have some privacy, please? The classic soccer bit. So this is him taking him to bedtime, saying it's pointless to resist, my son. This is hilarious too. Can we keep him? So yeah, I mean, again, like I also think, even though this is like fairly naive illustration, I think it's intentional. And I love the little details, like even here, the choice where he knew there would be these like large areas of like black and fairly solid colors to like juxtapose that with the texture of this couch. I think that's a really good call, just on a design standpoint. So it's sophisticated in its lack of sophistication. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's intentional, you know? Dad, can I see that? No. Do you need my help? No. What are you doing? Luke, go play. He's building a lightsaber here. Can I fix it?
What's on the plans? Are those pod racer plans?
I think it might be. Yeah, it might be possible. I'm guessing it might be like the mechanics for the lightsaber, but it could be pod racer plans. You would probably know better than I on that.
I'm just trying to tell from the camera angle, but yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it a little closer for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Could
Yeah,
be.
I'm not sure why that banding's happening. That's interesting. All right, so it definitely doesn't. It's not super clear, but it does look like it could be a pod racer because there's like 2 chambers here. So
Yeah.
it's either that or like the internals. When I was your age, we didn't even have Star Destroyers. Luke, come with me. Why? Because it's the only way. Why? Because why? And again, just like these poses with like, especially that pose with the hands folded, just really to me, it makes him look less menacing. It's a really good visual choice. You know, it makes him look more like this very powerful figure who's trying to be patient. You know.
Yeah.
It's very funny. And then Darth Maul leapt up and then destroyed Qui-Gon. And he's like super freaked out. And the book's about Darth Maul. So it's like I love this ongoing bit that it's like he's trying to kind of get his son into the dark side, and his son keeps being like, these are bad guys, you know. I also love the oh my goodness, I just designed one of these and I'm
The mobile.
Yeah, the mobile here. It's pretty awesome. No, Luke, you're not old enough. But Dad, I'm ready. Ben, tell him I'm ready. And I love that the price tag's like absurd too for the speeder bike. So he's listening to the Ewoks, and his dad's trying to get him into deep cut jazz with the modal nodes. He's like, hey, Luke, let's listen to something else for a while. Maybe Ewoks. Are you sure about that? No, Ewoks. Yub, yub. I love that. It's just hilarious.
That's funny.
Then here he is pretending to be a Jedi with a stick.
Zoom in on the back one and zoom in on the album cover for the Ewoks.
It's a little hard to see on the camera, I think.
I can't move it over a little bit. You're just the other one, the one that's leaning up with the
this one.
Thing. Yeah.
It actually looks like the bad Ewok special. Yeah,
it's either that or there was that 80s Ewoks cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the modal nodes is like an art house portrait, like playing off of like a Blue Note record, which I think is hilarious. So very good. All right, so we have in the Ewok, it's kind of Ewok themed at this point too, which is, I noticed too, there's like some kind of ongoing themes. 8, 9, 10, you cannot hide forever, Luke. Your thoughts betray you. They're playing hide and seek. And I love that recontextualizing of scenes in the movies. I have you now. And he's like being tickled through the Force. And let's see. Dad, look what I drew. It's you and me. The Force is with you, young Skywalker. Showing off his actually really rad. I wish it didn't band like that. I gotta figure out what's going on with that. Let's see. Maybe it'll be better with the light off. Does that work better?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, Dad, why is it called the Death Star? And he's like, I see you have constructed a new spaceship. Your skills are complete, and it's a Lego spaceship. And then I love you, Dad. And then you get a little bit about Jeffrey Brown and Chronicle books. And yes, he does have a son, Oscar. So, and there we go. So that is the first Jeffrey Brown book. And this thing came out and just kind of rocked the charts, and like I said, it's still on the bestseller list, and I think with reason, because it's really fun, it's lighthearted. I'm gonna turn that light back on because it seems less good now on the camera, but yeah, it just I think I think it's one of those perfect storms where the premise is great, the style is naive and fun enough to like match the fun tone of the books, and yeah, I mean, just the execution's really good too. And I love this too because this is an example of cartoonist work because he's writing this as well, you know. So, which to me, I always define cartoonist in that way, like a cartoonist like both writes and illustrates their work, you know.
Yeah.
In my definition, I guess. So now we have Vader's Little Princess, and this one I'll go through a little bit quicker because, you know, I want to talk about the books. I think we'll spend a little more time talking about it, and maybe Star Wars a little bit. But this one's just reflecting the same thing, and it's a sequel. And I still think, like, often something like this would be like a money grab, but it's like you can tell throughout the execution of this that he's just having a blast making it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I talk about this a lot when I talk about art, where there's something about authenticity that even something commercial like this, that literally started as like a concept from Google, when in the right hands, like an artist who really cares or somebody who's really like geeky about Star Wars and also has these funny premises in their head, like the authenticity, like I think reads, you know?
Yeah.
Because again, I could see this just being like a quick coffee table book that maybe is like a bestseller for a week and then disappears. But I think there's something more sincere and tender about the way it's executed. So Vader's Little Princess, again, we have the scroll. I'm just going to flip through it so you guys get some ideas. So,
touch my cape.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. He's about to choke out the Admiral. He's about to force choke him, and it's like, "Hi, Daddy." And he's like, "Oh, make sure you get the backs again." So anyhow, I'm going to kind of get into this. You are free to use any means necessary, but I want them alive. No disintegrations. Again, just like some really great deep cuts here. Here's the classic, like, you know, she's anyhow, this is basically like a riff on the entire intro of A New Hope, like this whole sequence, which is very funny to me.
Until my keys are found.
And he's lost his keys. So it's just some great bits. I love the execution. I love the humor of it. Here she's a teenager, and it's like, "You may dispense with the pleasantries, Your Highness. I'm here to tell you to pull your pants up." But Dad, it's the style. So it's just, you know, it's fun. It's a good series of books. I think it's excellent. Leia, did you eat all of the chocolate ice cream? Tell me the truth.
Torture Jordan.
It's so good. This is so hilarious. She's a rebel, part of the Rebel Alliance, but she's like a rebellious teenager, just going, whatever. I don't care what you think. These are my friends. It's the Ewoks. I love it so much. He's like a disappointed dad with a rebellious teenager. So anyhow, oh, I love it. So here he's meeting the boyfriend, and he's saying, "Oh, this is my carbon freezing chamber." So it's like the dad, and introducing the kid to his shotgun kind of premise. It's just really funny. Oh, he's embarrassing her by dancing at the cantina. So we'll just kind of go through these a little quicker, but you're not going out dressed like that. Trying to borrow the Imperial shuttle. And just a lot of great bits. Same kind of premise, just with her. Although in this one, obviously, he ages her so he can deal with like a father-teenager dynamic because it's very funny.
Right.
You were so mean. All he did was kiss me. So yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. So like, to me, I think the lesson learned from this, what I take away from this is the importance of play in art. So I know it's weird to like follow up like a biography of Winsor McKay and like, a Tale of Sand, like these really important seminal works, and then like introduce a fun book like this. But I think that there is a through line that kind of connects all these books. And I definitely think that as an artist, I think when you have a spirit of play, especially when it comes to humor, you're gonna be rewarded in the result. Like, but maybe it won't result in like best-selling books like these. But I think that just enjoying the process and having a spirit of play can lead to like a lot of fun things. And I actually think, books like this are equally important to like really highly literary work, because this sort of thing is going to bring cheer to somebody's day, like potentially like a new parent or something. And I think it's just a really good example of like humor done right in comics, in very single panels, still technically comics, but not a lot of sequential, but still just like I think I love it, and I love the idea of someday doing a book that's made with crayons and colored pencils and like is intentionally naive. I actually think that is a fun approach, and it reads fun. Like, it's fun to look at. It's enjoyable, So yeah.
That's great. Well, it's time to balance the books.
I love it.
So let me jump over here. And if you enjoyed this or anything else that we're doing, then you can support the show by going to audibletrial.com/IRS and getting a free audiobook. And if you do that, then they give us a little bit of a kickback. Or you can also go to irsagency.com and click on any link on that page, because those are all affiliate links. And so if you would like to buy this book or any of the other books that we have covered or are about to cover, you can go to irsagency.com. And today's audiobook that I'm recommending is Star Wars from a Certain Point of View. And Star Wars from a Certain Point of View is not your typical audiobook, because one, it is all of the extra random characters in this really famous movie, right? But then two, it's more like a radio drama than it is like an audiobook. I mean, you can see the narrated by list there. You've got John Hamm and Neil Patrick Harris and Mark Thompson, a ton of people in there that are doing different bits and stuff, and it's really awesome. The reason I thought of this is as Josh was going through that book with the modal nodes, it actually has the backstory of the Cantina band and like how they got there and how they got trapped there. Like, they were like touring like the Outer Rim, and then they kind of like they got screwed out of some money, and so now they're like trying to play the cantina to like save up enough money, but like their species is really sensitive to like sand and dust, and so they're just being like tortured while they're on there anyway. And they go through this whole thing, and it's just anyway, but it's this collection of tiny little stories that are from kind of a behind the scenes situation, kind of based on from a certain point of view. And so you see you see what goes on in the cantina. You get like Greedo's backstory and like how he gets like really excited to finally be given like a real job, because he's been trying to work his way up in the Assassin's Guild. And anyway, it's just like everything. I love everything about it. The second one I don't feel like is as good as the first one, but the first one is really good. And so if you'd like this audiobook for free or any other audiobooks for free, you can go to audibletrial.com/IRS and support the show.
All right. So I'm curious, like, what your thoughts and takeaways on this are, and I'm assuming you probably have already been familiar with these books.
Yeah, I have thumbed through them at like Barnes and Noble, but I've never actually read them, and I loved it. I watched. I believe I watched him kind of working on them on Twitter years ago as he was kind of putting them together, and so. But yeah, I love the concept of that, and I've always wondered about the backstory of how he was able to do it, because there's like Otis Frampton right now is trying to catch the eye of Disney and Lucasfilm. He's been doing these little just Ewok series, like he does these little Ewok not Ewok, sorry, Jawa. He's doing these little Jawa series, and they're amazing. And so I keep thinking, like, there are certain people that really should get to do this type of thing. I'm glad that he was able to do it. The biggest thing that stands out to me, it actually reminds me of a book I just got that I'll probably cover, called One of Those Days. Have you seen that? Have you seen that comic strip, One of Those Days?
No.
It's by Yehuda Devere, who he and his wife, well, it starts out with him and his girlfriend, but he just started like kind of doing this as kind of like a fun, like daily little deal. And it's the same level of like truth and authenticity, but it's about relationships and marriage. But they feel very similar to me because, having been married and having had kids, I see all those tiny little moments. And that's where I think the strength of Darth Vader and Son is that it's not like that fan service where you're like, hey, look, a thing you recognize, like that's there, but it's not empty. Like those moments are actually like real life moments. Like people who have spent time around children or watched parents at a grocery store or whatever recognize the humanity of that situation. And the humor is not that that is funny, but that it's funny watching Darth Vader do it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I love the authenticity of it. Like a lot of those moments, just I've had those experiences.
Oh, 100%. And I think the thing about like taking a truism like that, like, a lot of these are not like the most profound things. Like they're bits that have been riffed on for years because they're a common storyline that you experience as a parent, right? Like getting your kid to eat, getting your kid to put on their clothes, like just basic stuff that like almost any parent, it's very universal. So in that way, it is a little generic. But I think the great part about it is it's still authentic, it's still true, and then just that premise on top of it just brings it home. And also, I also am a fan of this book because I like the idea of indie cartoonists finding avenues to make a decent paycheck outside of indie comics. Because I guarantee you, like, this book probably made Jeffrey Brown a bunch more than like Clumsy ever did, even though Clumsy got all the accolades, right? And so I think I get happy when I see cartoonists able to do that. And I also wanted to highlight this because I think it would be inauthentic for me to say that that's always bad, because like it a lot of people who are like really into the artsy stuff would be like, oh, that's a sad example of this terrible society and how like you can do this great work of art and it won't sell, and like you do this little coffee table book and that's the thing that pays for your house or whatever. But it's like, no. Like in cases like this where the coffee table book itself is really great, I have no issue with that. And I can actually see why this would be more universally interesting to people than like a really deep dive into like relationship struggles and stuff like that. Like it's just a broader appeal and a broader market, but that's not always bad, was my point. And so I also wanted to bring this in because I know I can get kind of artsy and indie about stuff, but it's not always like it's not always the case that that's a bad thing or that that's like selling out,
Right.
Yeah. Adam puts it well. An example of a very marketable book with soul. Yeah. So
sorry, we both clicked on that at the same time. And Gary says, I'm beginning to suspect that this isn't canon. It's canon if you believe in string theory.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
true. When they introduced the Star Wars multiverse.
right. I think Patton Oswalt gave a speech that linked the Star Wars multiverse to the Marvel multiverse, and this is before like this most recent round of like Thanos things. But he had this big speech about the Infinity Gauntlet, linking those two universes since they're both owned by Disney. Anyway, it's well worth a listen. He did it as a filibuster on Parks and Rec. But oh shoot! Oh no, the thing I wanted to point out was had he not done an indie comic, he wouldn't have gotten this job.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So you have these personal projects where you show, what you can do and what you can bring to the table, and that's the thing that will then tend to drive. It's not like somebody just picked him out of a lineup, and said, "Hey, random person, you seem to like Star Wars, go make this." No, there was there's probably somebody at Google that was a fan of his work, and they kind of ran it up the flagpole and said, "Hey, this guy would be great."
Oh yeah, and I mean, Clumsy itself, like that book, I think he ended up directing and animating a music video for like Death Cab for Cutie back in the day. Like
right.
A lot of things came out of that graphic novel that, literally are like, I think a good example of how the industry works, where it's like you kind of put work out there, you do the work, you sort of pursue it, and then weird things happen. Not for like, not everybody's going to have that experience. And I would argue probably because not everybody's writing something as brilliant as Clumsy, which was his first book. But it's like, it's just one of those scenarios of like, it's a cool thing and it's a lot of fun. And I do think it's important for people to have fun and enjoy things. And also it's kid friendly. So I could like read this to my kid, and even the stuff that deals with like teenage, like dating and stuff like that, like wouldn't be like crossing a line that you couldn't read to like a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. Like it's very like kid friendly. And I think that's great too. And it has enough of those little Star Wars nuggets in it that, I really suspect weren't just put in by like some board. I really do think that was Jeffrey Brown just being an authentic fan.
Yeah.
There's enough of that in there to where like, even if your kid doesn't get all the Star Wars stuff, you're going to be like, oh yes, that's great. So I don't know. Overall, I love it. And I do at some point in my own career want to try to do some kind of art project in a naive style. And I don't mean naive in a negative. I mean like just using like colored pencils and crayons and like really getting in there with like some primitive tools, because I think it actually would be really fun. And you can make really great illustrations with like limited tools. So I don't know, at some point that might be something down the pipe.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's good. If you are interested in this book or other books, make sure to go to irsagency.com. When you go to irsagency.com, you will see the next episode. This is today's episode, and links to where you can get those books and where you can watch that episode on YouTube or Twitch. And down at the bottom, you can see all the previous episodes that we've done. So you can see last week's Tale of Sand, Winsor McKay from a couple weeks ago. And I will be covering I Killed Giants by Joe Kelly next week. And so if you that is an excellent book. Let me say this. If you have trouble getting the book because it's a little hard to get a hold of, watch the movie on Prime. It was adapted into a movie, and it's a phenomenal adaptation. I'm kind of interested in talking about that. So that one's going to be a bit spoilery, and I'll give kind of a spoiler warning before I get too far into it. But join us again next week, and we will be jumping onto Josh's YouTube channel here in a few minutes for the after party, the ever popular after party. But before we do that, Josh, where can we find your stuff?
You can find me at joshuakemble.com. You can also find me on Wednesday at like in person at oh my goodness, Bases Cards and Comics in Lancaster, California. I'll be doing a book signing there, and I have postcards. I'm hoping to have stickers by then, but we'll find out. So if you're in the LA area, especially on the further corners of it, feel free to stop by. And then I'm also doing another signing the day after on this Thursday at Voodoo Vinyl, the record shop in Lancaster, California. And that's a pretty cool like audiophiles dream shop that has like a bunch of deep cut records. And so it would make the Darth Vader jazz loving dads very happy. But yeah, I'm doing a signing there. And then aside from that, you can pick up copies at a ridiculously low rate of 2 stories on Amazon. It's like almost 60% off. So, hey, go take advantage of that if you haven't yet.
Yeah, that's great.
Cory, where can everybody find your work?
You can find my work at CoryKerr.com. And if you go to CoryKerr.com, you can watch my award-winning animation, put your heart into it. You can see some of the other animations I've made, and you can click on what's new to see where I am on social media and other animations and projects that I'm working on, some of which I'm doing for Wacom right now. All right, so we will see you guys next week. Go to irsagency.com to see what we're up to, and we'll see you in a week.
Bye till the